What is euthanasia? Euthanasia, translated from Greek, literally means good death. It is an act of mercy killing, essentially suicide aided by a medical expert. Euthanasia is employed on terminally ill patients who are plagued with constant suffering, allowing them relief. It is not done in self-interest by the practitioner, but is done in the best interest of the patient after clear consent has been given. There are two types of euthanasia, active and passive. Being able to distinguish between the two is critical in regards to medical ethics. Active euthanasia is a deliberate action where a medical professional administers drugs to a patient with the intention of ending their life. Passive euthanasia allows for medical physicians to stop treatment for a patient to allow them to pass away, but it does not allow for them to directly make a decision that is aimed to kill the patient. This presentation highlights the ethical stigma surrounding euthanasia, giving an overview of the contrasting opinions surrounding this ethical issue.
There are many different religious and non-religious viewpoints and arguments that arise when discussing whether or not euthanasia or assisted suicide should be legal. Some people believe that every person deserves the right to choose to end their life. However, others may argue that it is not up to the person themselves to determine when they die, and that it is possible some people may abuse this form of treatment. There is a large number of people who support the legalization of euthanasia worldwide. Many of these individuals believe that a crucial part of a person's autonomous right is to be able to decide for themselves if they wish to end their lives, and that it would be wrong to take away that right from them. Many more would add that would be proving the person is considered to be at a capacity to make such a decision, and that the decision is not seen as an irrational one. Many utilitarians who are in favor of the legalization of euthanasia may argue that as it would remove a person's pain and suffering, the consequences of euthanasia are positive ones. Therefore, meaning that the act of ending the person's life at their own wish is an acceptable one. As well as this, many individuals and groups in favor of euthanasia would argue that if someone is allowed to refuse treatment, which would prolong their life, leading them to die earlier than with the treatment, and often after having suffered for an extended period of time, then they should be allowed to choose to undergo treatment, which would bring their death closer and remove pain and suffering. Just as there is a large number of people in favor of legalizing euthanasia, there is also a great number who oppose it. In contrast to the arguments in favor of euthanasia, those who do oppose it believe that it is not a necessary action under any circumstances, as in their view there are better treatments available. These individuals believe that the increase in quality of palliative care allows for terminally ill patients to live their final days comfortably and without pain, making euthanasia unnecessary. Many other individuals who are highly religious may also be against euthanasia being legalized, as many religions such as Islam, the Eastern Orthodox, and Catholic Church have this viewpoint and believe that only God should be able to make decisions about life and death. In addition to this, those who oppose euthanasia may also argue that it is too easy for people to abuse its availability. If euthanasia is legalized, there is a possibility that it may not remain solely voluntary. If it is legalized, some patients who are terminally ill may be subtly pressured into making the decision in order to free space in a hospital, or the person elected to make the decision for a patient who is unable to do so for themselves may make the decision based on inheritance. This provides a very strong argument for those against euthanasia, as even individuals who are in favor of it would find such outcomes unacceptable, and would agree that extremely stringent guidelines and laws should be put in place to make sure this does not happen.
Euthanasia has the potential to be abused and used negatively in ways that will inflict unnecessary harm to individuals. Religious stance is one of the main contributing factors towards an individual's perspective on euthanasia. Other factors, such as the importance people place on autonomy, their experience with aged care facilities, past experiences with terminally ill or mentally ill people, may also impact someone's opinion on the issue. Religion plays a fundamental role in shaping a person's view on euthanasia. Death is considered to be an important rite of passage to all religions, as evident from the various meanings and explanations for death. Some religions have a specific ceremony or ritual that is undertaken when someone has recently died. These meanings and ceremonies provide support and closure for those who are experiencing the recent loss of a loved one. As expected, all religions strongly disapprove on the practice of euthanasia. Euthanasia is strictly forbidden in Catholicism. The Roman Catholic Church is one of the most active organisations in opposing euthanasia. According to most religions, those who have become vulnerable either through illness or disability are obligated to receive special care and treatment. Most religions are against euthanasia mainly because God has forbidden it, and human life is sacred and special. For Eastern religions, euthanasia is opposed of because it interferes with freedom of mortal life, causes harm, and impedes on God's right to take away life that He has given. There are a number of ethical issues associated with euthanasia. With the increase of healthcare costs and an ageing population, there is a higher demand for life support. Aged care services and other costly programs to minimise expenditure and to provide more broader and effective healthcare service suited for all, involuntary or coerced euthanasia may eventually become an expectation in order to achieve this outcome. There are currently many healthcare professionals who are in favour of the futile care theory. This theory measures the value of an individual's life based on the financial costs required to keep the person alive. Patients who are in a vegetative state or who are mentally ill are likely to be more vulnerable as it places a burden on the availability of limited resources. Once euthanasia is legalised, the criteria for patients are qualified for euthanasia may become more ambiguous, increasing the range of victims. Doctors and healthcare authorities are already taking patients' lives in their hands, determining who has a low quality of life. Each individual has the right to be advised of the decisions they make, empowering them with knowledge to make an informed decision. However, euthanasia provides more power and control to the doctors and healthcare authorities rather than the patients. However, if an individual chooses this pathway where euthanasia is legalised, it is their autonomous right to decide as to whether they choose this for themselves. As of December 2014, Washington, Oregon, Vermont, New Mexico, Montana, Luxembourg, Switzerland, Germany, and the Netherlands have listed euthanasia and assisted suicide as legal practices.
The regulation of euthanasia is a major concern. The medical industry works to make people better. However, can it be declared without any doubt that this person will not be getting better? When will the pain experienced from some terminal illnesses outweigh the time they have left to live? What if the person has had enough of medical treatments and feels it is the right time for them to give in and end the pain? Isn't it their right? These questions are hard to answer as there's no solid numbers to be crunched or easy system that will fit each case. Therefore, if everyone's case is different, how do you regulate that a person wants to use euthanasia for the right reasons? Where euthanasia is currently legal, procedures are already in place to prevent the misuse of euthanasia and assisted suicide. Things like only receiving consent from the individual concerned, recording each instance, the medicine and or management can be given by a physician who has consulted and discussed and analysed the case with another physician. The method to regulate euthanasia may be required to ensure the values of society aren't swayed due to new norms created by euthanasia's availability. The slippery slope is a concept discussed in Piaget's journal article, Legislating Euthanasia or Assisted Suicide, the Illusion of Safeguards and Controls, within which exceptions to law lead to more and more exceptions to the point where exceptions are being made for things that wouldn't have been originally morally correct. As opposed to living a life filled with pain, other groups, such as people tired of living with mental illness, may take advantage of on-demand euthanasia if it was legal. This may have detrimental effects, as the means of suicide may be readily available to people able to fool regulation authorities. Thus, there needs to be a process put in place that would minimise the cases of misusing the option intended for terminally ill people. Hypothetically, a board could be initiated consisting of people from the general public to review cases and their reasons for wanting euthanasia for themselves, to ensure they are using this method for a valid ethical reason. Such a method would take this issue out into society where people have a wide variety of views and could judge fairly about the granting of medications to complete euthanasia as opposed to the possible biased views of medical physicians. The board may weigh up the costs and benefits for each individual concerned. This may include the dignity of the person, the pain they're experiencing, their personal reasons as to why they would want to do this, and their quality of life. Opposing this, dignity and hope should be promoted amongst people beginning to feel as though they are a burden, such as terminally ill patients or severely disabled individuals. Couple this with palliative care. The patient will be comforted with medical science when medical science can no longer assist in prolonging life. Symptoms will be managed and there will be a heavy focus on quality of care. Euthanasia, as discussed, is far from black and white. It is something that is done in the best interest of a patient, one who wants to relieve unstoppable suffering that they might be going through, with the consent being given for this treatment. Though individuals or groups will see euthanasia as the wrong thing to do and may believe that it is an unnecessary action to take no matter what the circumstances, it is seen as an autonomous right that is completely up to the individual. So, shouldn't everyone have the right to choose to end their own life if they are experiencing unstoppable suffering?